Hello and welcome to another star-studded episode of Hadron Converters Space. Um, Tonight I'm starting off with a bit of music from one of my favourite German bands, Space Debris, and we'll talk a little bit about them, and we'll also talk a little bit about the issue of Space Debris. I thought it was an appropriate group to introduce it. I've been wanting to get Space Debris on the program for a while anyway, so have a bit of a listen to this. This is from the live at Hartsburg gig, and I picked this one because this is one you don't generally see, but if you look at Into the Sun by Space Debris and look for the particularly for the Hertzberg gig, you'll find some excellent videos there. I did see an example where they're showing the whole video, and or just the Into the Sun clip is probably one of my favourites. I've had it on my watch later list for years now, and never get tired of watching it. I never get tired of hearing this band. They should be better known. They're really revolutionary, and as you'll hear, they're really good musicians. So have a listen, and then I'll get right back to you. So I'm still here. I was getting into that. I know I let it play through for a fair bit, but they're a very captivating band, and I'm just flushing up their website address there. So if you're lucky enough to be in Germany, have a look at their website there, and maybe you'll be able to catch their next gig. I've been lucky enough to catch them a couple of times. I first heard of Space Debris when I was still in Australia. A friend of mine introduced me to them, and when he heard I was going to Germany, he said, "Oh, you've absolutely got to get me a copy of this CD. It's not on the list anymore. I can't get a copy of it. Can you try and get a copy of it?" And I said, "Well, okay, well, I'll give it a go." And I wrote to them in my then faltering German, sent them an email from Australia and said, "I'm coming over to Germany soon, and I'd like to see the band, and I've got a friend that's trying to get this CD." And likewise, I said, "Well, we don't have it in the catalogue, but we do have a couple of CDs at home." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll get back in contact with you when I'm in Germany." And when I got to Germany, I thought, right, I've got to find these people. And the reason I came to Germany was the old story. I met a girl who's now my wife, and I wrote to Space Debris again, to Christian Jaeger, the drummer, and said, "Where are you? I'm in Germany now. If it's possible, I'd like to come and see you and get a copy of this CD. And would it be possible to get a signed copy, because I've got a friend back in Australia that wants your autograph and that." And he said, "Oh, no worries. We're over at Weinheim, or Weinheim if you prefer, Weinheim for the Germans." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll see if I can find you." And I said to Britta, my now wife, "Have you got any idea where Weinheim is?" And it turned out she worked there. So we organised that we met them after she'd finished work, and we went over there, and went to Christian's house, and he gave me a cup of coffee, and he had a nice chat with me. We were probably over there for about an hour and a half, and he was talking about his music. And at that stage of the game, the Hammond organ player, who was also called Tommy — I say also because the guitar player is also Tommy — had not long ago left. They had unfortunately had some artistic differences, and regrettably they had to go their separate ways. And it is regrettable, because I did manage to meet their new keyboard player, Vinny, or Winnie if you prefer. He's a very nice man, a lot easier to get on with than their former player. But I've got to say that Tommy had that certain something. It was very, very intense, and it comes out in his music, I think. There's been various lineup changes with the band, but essentially it centres around Tommy on guitar and Christian on drums. Now, at times they've had a bass player and then not had a bass player. I suppose it wasn't necessary to have a bass player when they had their Hammond organ there, because any of you know about the Hammond organs, they do have bass pedals, and their player was a very accomplished player. I think one thing you'll find about the German musicians is the level of musicianship is very high, because unlike in some places, I know this applies very much to where I come from in Australia, a lot of us didn't really study music to any extent in school. I mean, I did, but a lot of people didn't study music to any extent. They just started mucking around with a guitar or something like that after they left school. And whereas in Germany, a lot of the musicians have been sent off to lessons by their parents at a very young age. I know my daughter is still in the kindergarten and hasn't started proper school yet, and one of her friends is already going to music appreciation classes in preparation for probably learning an instrument. But then, of course, when they go to school, they study music very intensively if they have the inclination, and so I think you'll find that the level of musicianship with the musicians from Germany is very high, and with Space Debris it's no exception. You can quite clearly hear that Christian Jaeger is a above ordinary drummer. Tommy on guitar, and I'll get probably back to talking more about him in a moment, but he's also very good, and Tommy on the organ, he really knows how to use one of those things. They're a tricky instrument. A genuine Hammond organ is a tricky instrument. You can get total rubbish out of them, but if you know what you're doing, you can get some really good sounds, and he quite obviously knows what he's doing. And as you can also see, they've got all the good gear, genuine gear, Ludwig drums, Fender Stratocaster guitar, and a real live Hammond organ. None of this sample stuff, and it really adds to their music. And so, yeah, I suppose getting back from the story, I waffle on, as you know. So I spent a very pleasant afternoon over Christian Jaeger's place, drinking his coffee and listening to him talk about the band and their philosophy and so forth. And he was actually showing me how they recorded and what they recorded on. And if you've listened to any of their CDs yourself, believe it or not, a large amount of that was just recorded in Christian's living room, direct on his computer using Cubase, and an old computer there running on XP, because XP is very popular in Germany. Bill Gates is only weaning them off it very gradually. I guarantee if you go to a doctor's surgery or something here, they're probably using XP still. They really love it. I later had the privilege of seeing Space Debris in Miltenberg. They played at a place called Big Mama's there at Miltenberg, and for me in those days it was the end of the earth. And funnily enough, we actually live out near there now, on the way there. So we live in the Odenwald too, like Space Debris do, and this is one of the reasons why I find it a bit hard to get recordings done. If you hear tapping on the wall, I'll have a little break, and I'll get back to you as soon as I've seen what my daughter wants. So back again. Problem solved. I did promise that I was going to play a good night tune on the guitar before my daughter went to bed. So I got out the trusty 12-string. Just to show the trusty Yamaha 12-string Western guitar. It's been all over the world with me, and I've had it since 1980. the nuts exploded on it twice, and I've replaced them. I mean the nut down here, not the nut here. A very nice instrument, not my first guitar, but it's certainly been with me for a long time now, and took it to Germany with me too, and for a little while there it was the only thing I had to play. And my first winter in Germany, it didn't like the cold weather much, and the nut exploded once more. This time I've got a graphite nut that I've fitted to it myself. Less than perfectly, but it's sounding really good. And next set of strings I'll readjust that nut a little bit more, take a little bit off it. That's Guitar Tech Talk, which probably should do a bit of that at another time. So getting back to space debris, and yes, we did manage to see space debris live at Miltenberg, and had another chat with the guys and that. And while I was there, I managed to get a poster off the walls in the town where they were playing in Miltenberg, and I rolled that up and sent it off to my friend in Australia for a souvenir, and he was very happy with that. And I imagine the local council were also very happy that there was one less poster for them to remove off the walls. Yeah, so moving right along back to the musicianship of space debris. Christian Jaeger is a fantastic drummer. It's probably amazing that this band hasn't been able to go further. I suppose it's just one of those things. You've got to have the luck and the motivation to meet the right people. Maybe in another time and another place, they could have gone a lot further. Now, the band is still gigging almost constantly, and they do play some reasonably good gigs around here. Obviously, they played at the Hartsburg Festival, which is one of the major rock concerts. I might add, the Hartsburg Festival was what originally gave the Americans the idea for Woodstock. The Hartsburg was running about 2 years before that. They also played at the Finkenbach Festival a couple of years ago, which unfortunately I didn't manage to see. Unfortunately, because Finkenbach's just the other side of the mountain from me, and so far I haven't managed to be there once since I've been living here, because again, family commitments make it difficult for me to go jaunting off to a rock concert for the day, at least for the moment. And in any case, I'll get there one day, I'm sure. So yes, Christian is a great drummer, and if you listen to the full extent of the music, I don't think he ever repeats himself. He keeps the beat, and that's fine, but he manages to be very interesting, with the stuff that he plays, his little fills and rolls that he plays along with it. And he's a very unassuming sort of guy too. If you do see the band, you can go up and talk with them. They do speak English, or at least Christian does. I'm not sure about Tommy, but Christian speaks English. Most Germans speak English to at least a certain extent, but they learn it at school, and not all get the chance to practice once they leave. But Christian's quite fluent. And Tommy, you can really sort of hear a lot of I think a Hendrix influence to his guitar playing. He's not copying Hendrix by any means, but I think you often hear these little things that he plays that just remind you that he likes his Jimi Hendrix. And the two of them, I suppose, have been running the band for just about forever. I think that the founder members, and I suspect they might have been to school together, or certainly met very early on in the piece. And there's a very close relationship between them, and they've been playing together so long now that they absolutely know each other's moves, and sync in very well together as a band. So again, as I wouldn't put anyone on this program who I wouldn't recommend, but I highly recommend that you catch up with some of their music. Now, as far as genre goes, I'm not going to use the K word, but Christian's quite happy to refer themselves in that genre. I tend to prefer to say German progressive rock. They are not really quite as spacey as some bands, or quite as psychedelic. Those elements are certainly in there, but I think they've got more of a jazz improvisational feel, come blues to them, with a bit of psychedelic mixed in. So, but look, you won't be disappointed if you go and see them at a gig, and you also won't be disappointed if you buy any of their albums. You can also get, okay, this is my personal bias, but I think the Live at Hertzberg gig is one of the pinnacles. Lots of good stuff, but I just like that gig. I suppose I might be biased too, because I actually went to Hartsburg, and when I watched the video, it brings back memories, and having been over the ground myself, I ordered that from Australia, and I was a bit doubtful. It's one of my early internet purchases, and I thought, oh, I'm not really sure. And that was the first time I joined PayPal as well, and I thought, well, maybe that adds a little layer of safety. And the company, I'm just trying to remember the name of the record company that I bought it off, but they're a Swedish-based company, and I had to pay in kronas, the Swedish currency, and I thought, oh, I don't know about this, like, oh well, what the hell, I'll do it. And would you believe it, all the way from Sweden to Australia, it took 24 hours, and I had that thing in the post. I just can't believe it to this day. I mean, the German post system's pretty good, but to get international post between, whenever I send anything off to Australia from here, it takes at least 2 weeks. That poster I sent, and the CD that I sent to my friend in Australia, well, the CD took maybe 3 weeks to get there, and the poster, I'd just about given up that he'd get that. It took about 6 weeks before that poster came there, and someone had opened it, taken it out, and had a look at it as well. So I suppose it must have got stuck in customs, and who knows, maybe it didn't get past the Australian sniffer dogs or something. Maybe a couple of hippies were having a joy to the poster, and the smoke impregnated it. Whatever it was, it took ages, but eventually did sort of get there. So being able to buy a DVD and getting it in the post from Sweden to Australia in 24 hours is pretty amazing, I think. And the German post system's pretty good, and depending on who you buy it off, notably, I don't want to give a free plug, but the Tomans Music here, very often if you buy something from them, that can be there in as little as 1 or 2 days as well. They're also very, very good, but that's sort of pretty much local. So with internationally in one day, it's impressive by anyone's standards, I think. Yeah, so try and buy some of their CDs if you can. They're a very small operation. They've got day jobs, and doing it hard, enjoying their music, enjoying playing their music, and making good quality music as well. So have a listen to them. you too can join the space rock revolution. Just send me your name, your track, a bit of a bio about yourself, and preferably a thumbnail or a video, and I'll get you on the show. Just send that to hadronconverter@gmail.com, or you can also message me on Facebook on Hadron Converter, or you can also leave a message with your links on hadronconverter.simplesite.com. I look forward to having you on the show and joining the space rock revolution. So, just to move right along, I was waxing lyrical about space debris, and I suppose the reason that I was thinking of space debris was going on an article that was in my BBC news feed this week, and of course with the Falcon Heavy boosters doing the launch, launching our first sports car in space. They had the comment that now there's a bright red sports car orbiting the Earth, and as much as it was an impressive feat launching it up there, it's just one more bit of space debris up there in orbit, which is now starting to become somewhat of a problem. They say there's so much junk up there. It's starting to get to a stage where it's difficult for them to launch something, because they're having to try and dodge all this space debris launching things up there, and there's all sorts of weird and unusual things up there. There's been small tools lost, there's been gloves lost, there's flakes of paint, and in any case, they estimate there's something like 20,000 pieces that are the size of a cricket ball or larger, and ranging in size, of course, from the astronaut's glove that I mentioned up to dead spacecraft and disused rocket stages and all sorts of things like that. And of course, everyone wants to get into space now. You don't just have the Americans with NASA. You've got the Chinese, the Indians. You've got the Eurospace ventures been going for some time as well now. You've got SpaceX with Elon Musk, and I'm just trying to remember exactly the name. It's something with Blue Motion or something like that. Is going to be another spin-off from Amazon. I mean, that's just what we need, isn't it? Amazon in space. Put the astronauts out of a job, just like everyone else. And so, of course, all this is leading to an ever-increasing collection of junk up there, and of course people have been sort of whispering about it for a while, and this whispering is starting to become a bit of a serious conversation. If you do so look it up, and you see a picture where they or I've also seen some video footage where they're showing all this stuff orbiting the Earth. There's a serious cloud of it around the Earth now, and it's getting very, very difficult to arrange. And so some of these things are going at speeds up to 30,000 miles per hour. Quite dangerous to run into for a spaceship. We can put them out of commission. I believe it has done with a couple. I think I'm just trying to skim through this as I'm reading it, but there was a couple of satellites that collided not so long ago. Here it is. The the Chinese Fengyun 1C weather satellite was destroyed by the Chinese themselves as part of an anti-satellite device test, because before man is up there in space, we're already planning how we're going to fight our first war there. We've got to get our priorities right, of course. An American communications satellite collided with a Russian Cosmos spacecraft, and last year NASA was involved in 21 collision avoidance maneuvers by uncrewed spacecraft, and 4 of those were due to the debris from this Chinese Fengyun 1C weather satellite, and to avoid bits and pieces from the Iridium-33 Cosmos 2251 collision. So the traffic's getting pretty severe out there. While we're using this current technology, as good as I find the Falcon Heavy boosters, it's probably unfortunate that someone like Elon Musk didn't come along a little bit earlier. This is one big advantage of the booster system that he's got, is at least it's not going to add too much more junk. I'm guessing he's not planning just to park his cars up there. So being able to reuse the boosters at least solves some of the problem. But in any case, I have heard one of the serious problems with a lot of this stuff is it's literally just flakes of paint and bits of tiles that come off the outside of the rockets as well. Tend to be giving a bit of a sandblasting effect up there as well, and not good. So if we don't find a solution to that problem pretty soon, I'm imagining that we might have a problem getting up into space further, because we're going to have to clean it up. We're going to have to do something, or otherwise we just won't be able to safely send anything up there. Now, I did read people talking about this way something like 10 years, 15 years ago, and they've been politely ignored, but obviously the problem is getting significant enough that governments are now motivated to do something about it. The level of government that you get today, I think motivation means when they say, oh, we better start doing something about it, you're probably pretty sure we're close to critical. I suppose the first thing to do is to have more of these reusable boosters rather than launching junk up there constantly, and the other thing to do is to start collecting something back. And I suppose for the right sort of people, they are talking about space being quite lucrative, and space mining might be a going concern in as little as 10 years, because there's just so much wealth to be found up there. But I'm betting if someone, and Elon, if you're listening, here's a good one for you to get into, mate. Start off by collecting your Tesla, but as well as that, a lot of those bits of space junk, old satellites and things like that, they're made primarily of very expensive precious metals like titanium, iridium, and things like that. And it could well be that if someone comes up with a decent system for collecting all that stuff, it's quite a good metal recycling industry. So I suppose too, any of you guys are out there collecting aluminium cans, if you want to take a walk into orbit, you'll probably be able to find something worth more than aluminium there. Good luck to you. I think another thing that they talk about it on and off, but one great and useful thing for getting bits and pieces up in space would be some sort of space elevator system. Of course, there's a lot of complications with that. A lot of it lies with material science, on having the right materials to be able to withstand the stresses of gravity, and also centrifugal force, getting a balance of it. But, the way technology advances, I'm sure that sooner or later they'll be able to get that. And if you could start getting some sort of space elevator system, and again, it would probably be dependent on them clearing up at least a band of that junk in the inner orbit, so that it doesn't knock the space elevator down. But once they start getting stuff like that, we'll be well and truly on our way. And I hope to live long enough to see those sort of things happening. As I always say, my own personal soapbox is we've got to get out in the space, guys, because we're running out of space here, and also we need a little bit of purpose in our lives. And I don't think we're really here just to go running around a treadmill like rats. And of course, with advances in technology, with computers and robotics, they might not need rats to walk around the wheel much longer, and I don't know what happens to us then. So we've got to move onwards and outwards. We've got to start progressing, or otherwise our species is in for a dead stall. So always thinking about space and always thinking about ways to get out there. So that's another moving episode of Hadron Converter Space for you, and have a listen to space debris, have a think about how we're going to get rid of the other space debris out of space, and think about how we're going to become a spacefaring species. And a lot of that involves a bit of pressure. And I know some people, I know my wife thinks this, what's the use of it? Who cares about it? And all this sort of thing. But you know, I did see one video last week where a lady physicist who works with NASA was saying, well, yes, a lot of people have got that attitude, but we've got a lot of the things that are vital to our society today, the cameras that everyone's using for the selfies in their mobile phones, which of course, as you know, today they're essential. You can't have a Facebook presence without doing a selfie with your mobile phone, as you all know. Also, computing systems and processes that were really financed and built for the space program, but one real big one, and that's what this physicist was saying. There's one real big thing that NASA and the space program have contributed to the human race is actually saving the human race. And not many people think about it or talk about it, but many years ago they were doing a routine mission, a scanning mission on gases, really just to compare the gas content of the Earth atmosphere with atmospheres in some of the other planets. Just, you know, just a bit of pure science. They didn't have any particular great goal in mind, but certainly wanting to know a bit about the gases that can be around a planet so they could sort of figure things out about other planets. And that was when they noticed the hole in the ozone layer. And if they hadn't have noticed that then, we'd be getting towards the stage of serious trouble. And she quotes a figure of 2060, but of course that's looking at the way we were producing things back then, and back then we didn't have China and India and a few other places in the world that were really starting to kick on now. But you know, keeping on making those air conditioners and those refrigerators using freon gas was likely to destroy our ozone layer completely in a very short order of time. But in any case, at the figures that they had back in those days, they were looking as late as 2060, and 2060 is not very far away from today by any standards. But they were looking at agriculture being no longer possible, and a system where people were no longer able to go out in the open without protection, and also the possibility of us getting large amounts of our atmosphere stripped away very quickly. One theory is the reason Mars lost its atmosphere, which they know that it had before, is it was literally stripped away by the sun. So these are things to keep in mind, and one, I'm thankful that NASA found that, and I'm also really thankful that they didn't have someone like Donald Trump in the presidency. This show is not about politics, but I've got to say, can you imagine what it would have been like? I mean, these are people who are denying everything that is risky or environmentally bad in the world today. It wouldn't have been ignored forever, but back then, if they would have had the wrong president in power, it could have meant nearly 10 years where they did nothing, and that would have been critical back then. And that's a worrying thing from that point of view too, that inertia or ignorance by politicians can be literally the death of us, because today people do choose to ignore what might hurt their profits or cost them votes. So we were just particularly lucky that they found that at that particular time. So even though it might not be obviously immediately beneficial to get up into space, the pure science and research advances the human race in general, and it's something we've got to keep doing. So I'll get off my soapbox and end the show, and I hope to see you again next time.
Traveling at light speed, the time goes real slow. Stars come rushing with a weird blue glow. When you're traveling at light speed, people you know age just like the pyramids in the sand. Einstein, how did he know? Riding on a light beam on a train from Bern. It's better with warp drive. Nobody knows how fast you are, but it shows. Travel wherever in an episode. Only a Stargate is better in the shows. So give me a warp drive to travel the void, faster than the Klingon, surer than the ball. I want a starship fitted with warp drive, faster than a light with distant stars nearby. Yeah.